Good morning. The College of Commissioners has adopted today the European Chips Act. In the European Chips Act, we are combining investment, regulatory framework, and the necessary strategic partnerships to make Europe a leader in this market that is so important. The global demand, as you know, for chips is exponentially growing. Chips are at the center of the global technological race. They are, of course, also the bedrock of our modern economies, and they are essential for the goods we use on an everyday basis. We have them in our smartphones, we have them in our washing machines. During the pandemic, for example, we needed them crucially in the life-saving ventilators, or now, for example, with the energy topics, they are in the electricity grids. So the chips are crucial in almost every device. But the pandemic has also painfully exposed the vulnerability of chips supply chains. You all know that the global shortage of chips has really slowed down our recovery. We have seen that whole production lines came to a standstill, for example, with cars. While the demand was increasing, we could not deliver as needed because of the lack of chips. So this European Chips Act comes absolutely at the right time, and it has two main goals. The first goal is, in the short term, to increase our resilience to future crises, increase our resilience by anticipating and thus avoiding supply chain disruptions. And the second part is, of course, looking at the midterm and there to make Europe an industrial leader in this very strategic market. For that, we have set ourselves goals. We've set ourselves the goal to have in 2030 20% of the global market share of chips production here in Europe. Right now we are at 9%. We want to go to 20% in 2030. But knowing that the demand in the global market will double during that time, it means basically quadrupling our efforts. The European Chips Act will back this ambition with considerable investment. It will enable 15 billion euros in additional public and private investment till 2030. And this comes on top of 30 billion euros of public investments that we have already planned. For example, Next Generation EU, in Horizon Europe, or in the national budgets. And then these funds are to be matched by further long-term private investments. Now, the European Chips Act will focus on 5 specific areas. The first is research. In this field, Europe is already excellent. We're world leader. And now we are going basically from strength to strength. We will further focus on small, energy-efficient transistors and on disruptive technologies for artificial intelligence. The second focus can basically summarize by the motto, from the lab to the fab. We need now to translate this excellence in research I was just reflecting about into industrial innovation, so market-feasible products. And thus, we will bridge the gap between the laboratory and the actual manufacturing in Europe. And this leads me to the third point, and that is industry production. Europe needs advanced production facilities, which come, of course, with a huge upfront cost. We are therefore adapting our state aid rules, of course, under strict conditions. And this will allow, for the first time, public support for European first-of-a-kind production facilities. And as they are first of a kind, they benefit all of Europe. My fourth point is that we will also support smaller, innovative companies, the SMEs, the startups we need. We will support them to find the employees that have the skills that are needed. We will support them by finding the industrial partners, and we will support them, of course, with equity finance that is necessary. And finally, I come back where I started. it's about the supply chains. It should be clear that no country, and even no continent, can be entirely self-sufficient. This is impossible. Europe will always work to keep global markets open and to keep them connected. This is in the world's interest. It is in our own interest too. But what we need to tackle is the bottlenecks that slow down our growth as we are just experiencing it right now. And therefore, Europe will build partnerships on chips with like-minded partners, for example, the United States or, for example, Japan. It is about balanced interdependencies and it is about reliability. With the European Chips Act, we're putting out the investment and the strategy. But the key to our success lies in Europe's innovators, in our world-class researchers, in the people who have made our continent prosper throughout the decades. Europe is the continent where all the industrial revolutions have started, and Europe can be the home of the next industrial revolution too. Thank you so much.